Hello and welcome back to Let's Talk About Things. Today, it is not only Pokemon Day, but we have also just been shown our first view of Pokemon Generation 8. Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield. So let's talk about that. So first off, let's just talk about what was actually announced. So of course we got Pokemon Sword and Shield, as you can see behind me. Those are two new games for the Nintendo Switch coming later this year. So the Galar region seemingly is based off of the UK. I'm not sure if it's Great Britain in general or just England itself, but it looks like it's based on that. In fact, it just looks like an upside down version of the UK, as many people have already pointed out. Also, it looks a little bit like Westeros, because of course Westeros is also based off of the UK. But I'm not sure if it's going to be the entire United Kingdom or how exactly it'll work or what. But either way, I think it's an interesting location for Pokemon. It was heavily rumored to be a part of this. So you may have seen some fake logos going around being a Pokemon Queen and King, Pokemon Scepter and Crown, all this other stuff. It was very, very heavily rumored that Generation 8 was going to take place in an area based off of England and the UK. We also, of course, got the starters revealed, which is amazing. So let's go over the three starters. First off, we have Scorbunny, and Scorbunny is our fire-type starter. He is this little rabbit boy, and he's great. And I don't know if other people are getting this, but I get that same vibe as there's like a fan comic of Isabelle, and she like curses, and it's like, I'm rude now. I'll put a picture up of it. That is the vibe Scorbunny gives off to me. But I love Scorbunny. I think it looks great. It looks like he's based off a soccer player of some sort. I've been seeing a lot of folks worried that he's going to be fighting fire. And I think at this point that is just people being afraid of things, because people had that same fear of Litten, and Litten's fire dark. So don't be worried about that. I do not think Scorbunny will be firefighting. I'll go over what I want the typings to be later on in the video, but I do not think that Scorbunny will be firefighting. I think we're fine with that. It looks like to me it'll probably be fire or something else. The coloring and stuff just doesn't give me the same vibe as a fighting type. It'll also probably be very quick and nimble, because it looks like it's based off a soccer player, and you know, they tend to be. So I don't think we're going to get that similar vibe as Incineroar has given us, which I'm glad, because the fire starters have been very diverse the past few generations. You know, Incineroar, Delphox, and Scorbunny look pretty different. They're very different variety-wise, and I'm happy to see that. I've been liking the new Pokemon designs quite a bit. Then we had Sobble, and Sobble is this little sad, scared, timid lizard. He's kind of like a newt, kind of tadpole looking water starter. He reminds me a lot of Froakie. I get a lot of the same vibe, although Froakie was very courageous, kind of the opposite, but it gives me that like Froakie sort of vibe, which I get because the water type starters tend to be amphibious or reptilian in nature, so it makes sense. I love Sobble. He's great. He's a little scared boy, and he's adorable, and I love him. And he turns like invisible, which is great. Look like almost like acid armor type of deal, like Vaporeon can do, but not even then, because Vaporeon turns into liquid, so even cooler than Vaporeon. So I guess he's like a chameleon based off of his invisibility, but the name Sobble kind of led me to some confusion, because if you look at Scorbunny, it's very obvious that it's Scorch and Bunny, and or Score and Bunny, because of the soccer player motif. But Sobble, I'm a little bit more confused, because he's obviously a lizard, not a frog. But the only thing I can get from his name is sob, like cry, because he's a coward, you know, like Wimpod. But the ol makes me think tadpole, like sobbing tadpole is his name, Sobble. But I don't think he's a frog, so it could still be tadpole. I mean, that's fine, but he's probably like a chameleon, is what my base is going off of right now. I don't think he looks like an iguana or any of those other kind of lizards. I think he's pretty sure he's a chameleon at this point. And lastly, we have Grookey, who is this little chimp boy, and he's like, looks like a little caveman, and he's great. I love him. He has this little stick that he like bangs on things and he keeps in his hair. It looks very caveman to me, and I love it because he's like the perfect partner for Chimchar, who was another chimp Pokemon. And I'm also interested to see how those two designs will compare to each other, because Chimchar evolved into this very lean, very good fighting type Pokemon in Infernape, and I'm curious if Grookey is going to stay more bulky and more like I don't know why I picture I'm pretty sure he's going to turn into a gorilla. I feel like most people are pretty sure of that. but he looks a lot like, he's giving me like Abomasnow kind of vibes, like that kind of like a girthy grass-type Pokemon, kind of like Zook from Skylanders, or the tree guy, Wallop, or whatever his name was from Skylanders. Very similar vibes. I'll put up photos of who I'm talking about and whatnot. But that kind of vibe is what I'm getting from him, and I love it. So I like all the designs. I think they're great designs. Some people have been saying they've been lazy or they're not as good as the Alola starters. I don't agree. The Kalos starters, their first forms, I loved. The Alola starters, their first forms, I loved. And the Galar starters, I also have the same thing. It feels in line with what we've been doing. I think it looks good. I think they look like Pokemon have been looking since X and Y. And I think it gives off a very similar vibe to the Alola and the Kalos starters, which I'm just really happy to really like starter Pokemon again, because I remember when like the Unova starter Pokemon were revealed, I liked Snivy, but both Oshawott and Tepig, I needed time to really grow attached to them, and I don't have that with these. Instantly, I love all three of them, to the point where I'm having a similar problem as I've had. Well, actually, that's not true. Usually, I can pick out which starter I like. So for Kalos, it was Froakie, all the way Froakie, and until Greninja got revealed, and it was like double Froakie. In Alola, I liked Litten the most initially. I really liked Rowlet as well, but Litten was my preferred one. And then as more things got revealed, Incineroar came out, and I wasn't super keen on Incineroar, so I switched over to Rowlet and got Decidueye, because I loved Decidueye. I really like Archers, so Decidueye really fit that for me. But nowadays, Incineroar has probably gone back to being my favorite. I just needed a little bit more time to get used to Incineroar. So I was on that. On this one, I don't have a preference yet. I like all three of them pretty equally. And I have the same thing. I know Derek on Game Explain, he said this. I kind of, while I was watching the CGI trailer, I wasn't sold on it. I thought they looked a little weird. I think it was just because of the simplicity of the CGI. It looked a little weird and stuff, and I wasn't feeling it. But then they showed the art, the 2D art, and it instantly stuck. As soon as Ken Sugimori's art came out, it was like, oh, okay, now I get it. And I think it's just because they're very simplistic designs, because, you know, starter Pokemon tend to be. They're very basic, they're very flat colors and stuff like that. And I think in a CGI trailer, it kind of looked too basic, is what I'm gonna say. And it didn't have enough detail and complexity to look like something, like there wasn't any first track trick or anything. So it made them look kind of boring. But then when the art style came out and the regular art came out, which we're more used to seeing, it gave off a more Pokemon vibe, and it made you look at them in a different way, and I think that makes sense. So, I do love these starter trio. I'm a big fan of them, and I can't wait to pick one of them. I don't know who it will be. But let me know, who are you? Are you team Grookey? Are you Grookey? I don't know. Are you team Sobble? Are you team Scorbunny? Not Scorbunny. And for Grookey, I should also mention, because I mentioned for the other two, Grookey, I don't know what it's a combination of. I really don't. The best thing I have been able to come up with is Grass Monkey, for the GR from grass, and then Ookie from monkey. But I don't know. I don't know what it could be, honestly. So we'll just have to wait and see what he evolves into, and maybe it'll become more apparent. So now that we've gone over things that we know happened in the trailer, I want to talk about things that I think happened in the trailer, or I think we can surmise from the trailer, but is not proven at this point. This is speculation on my part. And one of those things is actually related to this logo. So you can't see it in this video, but at the top of that sword and the top of this red shield over here, there are two wolf heads. And my buddy Julian pointed out that it'll probably be a direwolf legendary, because, you know, direwolves are a big part of, you know, the culture over there and the history over there. I believe direwolves existed. Pretty sure about that. If not, whatever. But I'm pretty sure they did exist, and we're local to that area. And of course, you know, your direwolves from Game of Thrones and whatnot. So it's a big thing, and I think it works. And on top of that, what I think is happening is that they're gonna go back to kind of what they do with Cosmog. So for those of you who didn't play Sun and Moon, Cosmog was a huge part of the game. Like, actually within the story and everything, Cosmog was available with you, or with Lily, the entire game. So you cared about this Pokemon. And at the end, Cosmog evolved into either Solgaleo or Lunala, depending on what version you were playing. So you cared about the Legendary, and the Legendary was important within the story. I think they're going to do that again. And the reason I think this is basically entirely based on Cosmog and the reactions people had to Cosmog. So what I think they're going to do is that there will be one box art legendary. And I know this is a little crazy, but I do think there will be one box art legendary. The difference here is, unlike Cosmog, where it was an evolution branch, I think it's going to be a form change in this one. So I think in Sword, you'll have this Direwolf legendary be more of an attacker, be a little bit differently based, and look kind of like the Lycanroc split versions, like that kind of a thing. So you'll have your Sword form in Pokemon Sword. It'll be more physical attack and physical defense. Well, maybe, I don't know. It'll be more physical attacking in general than your Shield version, and then your Shield version will be, of course, more defensive and bulkier than the Sword version. And I think they're also probably, the Sword version will be more blue, the Shield version will be more red, based on the logos and whatnot. It'll kind of be like Aegislash, but you cannot switch between them, I don't think. Unless there's like an item that you get within the games for trading or something, but I don't think you'll be able to switch these forms. I think it'll be stuck with whichever one you choose, but I do think it'll be form changes, much like Kyurem from Black and White 2. Also, again, just based off of my previous lookings into Pokemon, last year, probably around this time of year, I made a video talking about when Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu would come out. Now, I did not know Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu were a thing at that point. None of us did. I assumed Let's Go Eevee and Let's Go Pikachu would be Sword and Shield, but of course they announced that they were doing remakes first, which is fine. So in that video, I predicted correctly the date in which those games would come out, based on previous release patterns and stuff with the movie that was happening and whatnot, and I'm going to do that again. I'm not going to go as in-depth as I did last time, because I'm not looking at movie release date patterns and all that stuff. I'm just basing it off of a rule I kind of discovered in that, which I'm sure other people have talked about before, but I haven't seen it, so this is why I'm referencing it. There seems to be a rule with Pokemon that they could break whenever they want, really, of third Friday in November. That's usually when they look to be releasing their games. Now, previous games didn't have that, and X and Y didn't have that either, so this is a thing that kind of started around Oros. But Oros was released on the third Friday of November of that year. Sun and Moon were also released on the third Friday. Ultra Sun and Moon also released on the third Friday of November. And lastly, Let's Go Eevee, Let's Go Pikachu were released on the third Friday of November last year, I think. So this year, I also predict that they will be releasing on November 15th, which is the third Friday of 2019. Now, is that 100% guaranteed? Absolutely not. They could break that rule whenever they want. It's just a pattern I've been seeing with Pokemon Company as of right now, and it will continue for as long as they want it to continue. This game could come out whenever they want. But the late 2019 points towards it being most likely in November, like it usually is. But, you know, X and Y came out in October, so who knows? So now that we've covered things that I know are happening, things that I think are happening, now I want to cover things that I want to happen. So none of this is predictions, none of this is anything. This is pure speculation on my part and my interests. I did another one of these kind of like I want videos for Fire Emblem before Three Houses was revealed, or we got like details about that. And I wanted to do one for Pokemon. I had a thumbnail and everything made, which I'll show you now. I had a thumbnail made for it and everything, but I didn't get to actually make the video before the announcement, so it never happened. So that's unfortunate, but I wanted it to be based in Brazil, because of course I'm Brazilian, and I really like Brazilian culture. So I wanted it to be based in Brazil, but that didn't get to happen. We got England, but hopefully we can still get one of those later on. And I hope to make a video about other places in the world I'd like to see regions based off of at some point. So maybe we'll get that after this Sword and Shield hype has kind of died down now. Maybe after the games are out. So my first thing I want from this game, I'm going to center around the starters. So something I really, really love about starter Pokemon recently is that they have themes. Some might say are lighter than others and, you know, more speculative, but it is widely believed that the last 3 generations have had themes. Going back to Gen 5, the theme was apparently imperialism or empires in general. Embor was based off of China, which I think is pretty apparent. Samurott was based off of Japan, again I think is very apparent. And Servine was based off of France, which I think is apparent. The reason I feel like it's weird that it's a trio is because I don't see how France connects to a trio between China and Japan. I feel like I don't know, it's just weird to just have France also in there. Maybe France played more of a deal in Asia than I know. Like, I can't say I'm particularly, you know, understanding of French, Chinese, or Japanese history, so it's possible, but I'm not entirely sure about that. it's a pattern of some sort. They're all clearly based off of these countries. I just don't know how that connects to each other specifically, more than just they're connected to these countries. Then in Gen 6, we got the most obvious one, which is the RPGs. Of course, Chestnut is like your paladin class, Delphox is a mage, and Greninja is a ninja, which is like a rogue or a thief type of a deal. I think thief more than rogue. I guess it's kind of the same thing. But those are, your 3 RPG classes, and that one was the most obvious one. I think Pokemon Company even said that's what they were based off of, and I really love that, and I wanted that to continue. And then in Generation 7, it kind of continued, although I think this is the lightest one of the bunch. Apparently there's like a circus theme, is what people have kind of pointed out, because of course Poplio's evolution line, very circus, very obvious there. Litten's is a little bit less obvious, but Incineroar being a wrestler is kind of like a strongman, so I guess that's a thing. And then Rowlet's is an archer, which is obvious, but I don't know that archer is a particular class in a circus. That's really where it falls apart for me. They're all kind of entertainers, I guess, because wrestling, Primarina is like an opera singer, and Rowlet does sports. I don't know. It's not a strong connection, I feel like. I think the circus thing could be a thing, but I'm not familiar with archery being a huge circus thing personally. But I don't know. Either way, that's apparently the theme there, is like a circus type of thing going on. And I really hope that these 3 have something too. Some people have been pointing out that maybe it's sports. I'll put up the tweets here, but someone, I don't remember the name, that's what I'm not going to say, but you should be seeing the tweets, that Sobble will be based on water polo, he thinks, is like his rough guess. Grookey could maybe be cricket because of the bat, and I think that's pretty fair. And then Scorbunny is obviously soccer, so maybe they have a sports theme or something going on, but who knows. We do have those, they look like coliseums. I'm not sure what they are, because it's not a gym. We know gyms are returning, but those aren't gyms, because they don't have the gym logo. And I would say they changed the gym logo, but they just put the gym logo in Let's Go Eevee, Let's Go Pikachu. So why would they change it? There is a gym logo since Gen 5, so I don't think they would change it. I don't know what those coliseums are. Even the tower in London seems to be one of them, so I don't know exactly what they are. I'm interested to find out. Maybe they're coliseums, maybe they're arenas. You seem to be wearing like a soccer jersey when you go into one, in the trailer at least. But there's clearly a battling thing going on. I don't know if maybe that's like the replacement of Island Trials, and they'll be kind of like Island Trials. I have no idea. I'm interested to see what they are, but that rendering that, and as well as the fact that this is a is this Olympics here? Nope, Olympics is in 2020. But also, this kind of things lead to being maybe sports based. And then also regarding the Gen 6 starters, something I'd like to see carried over is the secondary type rotation as well. For those of you who don't understand what I'm saying here, because I didn't put it the best way. So of course you have your Fire, Water, Grass trio, right? So every starter is strong or weak against another starter. Gen 6 had this not only with Fire, Water, Grass, but also in Psychic, Dark, and Fighting. So each starter had a balance and counterbalance within the trio. I would love to see that return, because I think it was really cool and that's very interesting. Now, I wasn't able to come up with one perfectly that fit these characters, but what I came up with is for Scorbunny, I want him to be Fire Electric. I think that would work well. I also just really want a Fire Electric type, because I think that would be an interesting combination. But Fire Electric for Scorbunny. For Grookey, it would be Grass Ground. So Grookey would be weak against Scorbunny's Fire typing, but strong against Scorbunny's Electric typing. And then for Sobble, I have Water Flying, because the thing on its head looks like a feather to me. I don't know what else Sobble could be. And there's really nothing that works great, because Electric really just doesn't have any weakness other than Ground, which is very annoying, but it doesn't. So the most I can come up with is Sobble's Water typing. He's strong against Grookey's Ground typing. And then Grookey's Grass typing is, of course, with the water. But then also Sobble's Flying typing is weak to Scorbunny's electric typing. So it doesn't work out perfectly because Sobble's flying typing isn't going up against ground, unfortunately, because I couldn't find... Ice wouldn't have worked in here. Water is already his typing, and... what was the other one? Grass, I think is ground of the weakness. You obviously can't have him be water grass, that would make sense. So, flying it is. So moving on to the region itself in Galar, I think that Galar being based off of England and the UK leads to some very, very interesting possibilities when it comes to story. The first one being a very simple one. I am a huge fan of medieval fantasy. I really like medieval fantasy, whether it comes to like your Game of Thrones and whatnot, or your King Arthur's. I love that stuff. So I would love to see kind of like what Mr. Buddy did with his UK region, where the round table is actually a part of the story. I would love that. Even if it's just like the champion and elite four of the round table, I would love it. Guinevere, Lancelot, Arthur, get him in there. I think that'd be fun. And I also, because I'm a huge Game of Thrones buff, I would love if houses were a part of it. I think it'd be really, really interesting if instead of the gym leaders being gym leaders, because they're just appointed officials or whatever, if it was houses that controlled the region. So like your gym leader would be like your government official in that area, and his house has been controlling that gym for generations and generations and generations. And I think actually Birdkeeper Toby did a theory that's kind of like that about gym leaders, but I think it'd be cool if there were houses, like 8 different houses you had to defeat, and that's who are in control of your gyms. Again, that's just because I like Game of Thrones and stuff, and I find that stuff fascinating. So I'd love to see that in here because it would make sense for the region. My second one is I don't know if it's a bigger ask or a smaller ask. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe the same size. I want Team Plasma to make a reappearance. And I don't want Team Plasma to be the evil team of this region or anything like that. I just want them maybe like in a post-game storyline or some references of them to be made. Because of course Team Plasma had that whole Knights aesthetic going on. And I think it would make sense if Team Plasma's roots were in Galar, and that maybe Getsis, his house that he originally comes from, is in this region, or maybe that Getsis will show up. I think Getsis is actually dead canonically, but I think it'd be cool if he showed up, or some of the sages, or it's just, you know, N or something showed up in this storyline. Maybe N could be a gym leader here. That would be cool. But I would like to see something based on Unova's Team Plasma in this region, even if it's just very small stuff. I just want to see them around. I'd also just like to see like some Pokemon characters from previous games show up. They did that in Alola, and it didn't really do too much other than be like, wow, cool. But I'd love to see it. Of course, Cynthia, if she can come back, she needs to come back. She's the baddest bitch in Pokemon, and she needs to be in every game. But I would love to see Team Plasma show up in some way, shape, or form. And lastly, there's one based on real life history. So England and France have a very long, very back and forth, very checkered and strained history. If you aren't aware, England and France went to war so many times it's not even funny. These countries seemingly always went to war, and it was always like, who's the major European power? Is it England or is it France? Now it's England, now it's France, now blah, 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 blah. And it's always been like that until they became allies, and then they kind of always fought on the same side. But even then, England and France are two huge powerhouses, and they are very involved with one another in history. That being said, we have France in Pokemon. We have Kalos. And in Kalos, we learned about that great war that happened. But we never found out who was the other participant. Some people thought maybe Alola was going to be a part of it, and maybe it was Alola's Hawaiian royalty that has seemingly disappeared that was a part of that war. And while it could still be that Alola fought in that war, I don't think Alola connects to Kalos really at all. We didn't see the Moon Dial in Kalos, we didn't see any of that stuff that was kind of teased in Kalos. Alola is very separate. But Galar would not be very separate, because it's right there. And I think the potential for them to be the combatant that was fighting up against Kalos, and for the Moon Dial to maybe be in their region would be really, really interesting and very cool. On top of that, that leads to more story potential, because we could see the return of AZ, we could see Professor Sycamore, we could maybe even see Lysander and Diantha show up in the storyline because of how close they are. Not to mention that in real life, the Eurostar connects London and Paris. In Kalos, we had a train that didn't go anywhere. You couldn't board it. I think it was even said in the game that it went to a different region, but you couldn't get on it in 3DS version. But what if they're going to give us a Johto situation, and you can get on that Eurostar train in Galar, and in the post-game, you have Kalos. I know it's a lot to ask, and I know it's probably not going to happen, because, you know, it's a big region to fit into a game. But based on your typical Pokemon stuff, we are upgrading from the 3DS to the Nintendo Switch, which is a full home console. So I don't know if it's too big. I don't think it'll... let me be clear. I do not think this is going to happen. But I don't think it'd be the most insane possibility. I think maybe there's a small chance. I don't find it likely, but maybe there's a small chance that Kalos will be visitable in this game. And I would love that, not only because I'd like to re-explore Kalos in this new 3D environment, but also just because, like, there's a lot of story potential that was never used in Kalos. I would love it if Zygarde played an actual role in the story of this game and wasn't just a way for you to find the forms like in Alola, because that never made sense to me. Alola never felt like the follow-up we were supposed to get from Kalos, and it felt like we were supposed to get something. It felt like it was teasing to something, and we never got it. We got something completely different. So, I hope that maybe Galar will fulfill those promises, or not really promises, but those hints that we got from Kalos, and they will get some fulfillment. Maybe this has been planned out for a while, and maybe Alola will also play a role in the storyline and somehow, I don't know. But I would love, love, love to revisit Kalos. I think it'd just be really cool, especially since, like, there's been a lot of focus on Gen 2 legendaries recently. You know, Lugia and Ho-Oh are in the movies with Alola legendaries for some reason. I have no idea why, but they are, and they're placing more focus on Gen 2. So maybe it's like a sly reference to Kanto and Johto's connection, but Alola wouldn't have that because it's in Hawaii and France. There's nothing to do with each other. So maybe England and France? Yeah, maybe, I don't know. And even if we don't visit Kalos, I still think some Kalosian influence will play around. And I think that Eurostar connection might even exist. Maybe you just won't be able to visit Kalos and then make a sly reference to it. And that's it. But I think it'd be cool, especially since we're probably going to get Gen 4 remakes next. And it'd be really cool if you can go back to Kalos, and maybe like Fantina shows up, setting up a Gen 4 remake. I don't know. I think it's worthwhile. We'll see what happens. So there are my very lofty wishes for Pokemon Sword and Shield. Listen, if none of these come true, I'm completely fine with it. These are just things I would like to see. I think it'd be cool, but I don't need it. This game looks amazing. I can't wait to play it. As someone who enjoyed Let's Go Pikachu, I'm looking very much forward to this. In fact, my only complaint, and even then it's like a half complaint about this game, it's very nitpicky, is that the Pokemon are no longer popping around like they did in Let's Go. But that's not even a fair thing to critique it for, because this game never promised that. This is a main series game. This is not a spin-off. This is not... Well, I guess Pokemon Let's Go is also a main series, but it's just like a different kind of main series. But yeah, I do think we'll get that eventually, and it's not going to happen now. It'll be fine. For these people who are disappointed that this is an open world and like Breath of the Wild Pokemon, I don't think you should have expected that. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think Pokemon is there yet as a franchise. I think maybe one day we'll get that. But just keep in mind that a lot of people want a lot of change in Pokemon, and a lot of change would make it not Pokemon. So I think people need to give it time to figure out what it is. I agree that some changes need to happen, and hopefully we'll see some, but there's that. There's also another thing that bothered me just a little bit about that trailer. We never saw the battle UI. We never saw how that's going to work. And that is a little worrying to me, because, you know, obviously Pokemon was on a single screen for a long time, but in my lifetime, I have really only played Pokemon on a double screen. I've played the older games, but they're not the games I grew up with. I always grew up with Pokemon with dual screens. My first main series game was Diamond. So for that reason, I'm a little worried that we're not going to have that dual screen anymore. I'm sure it'll be fine, but I'm curious to see what they're going to do about that. I'd like to see how it looks, so hopefully they can show us that soon. At least at minimum, maybe 3, I'm expecting that. So we'll see how it goes. So guys, that's it for today. What do you think of Pokemon Sword and Shield? Which version are you going to pick up? I don't know yet. I'm leaning towards Sword, but I don't know. I want to see what the exclusives are first, and that's how I chose X and Y. I just went with the exclusives. So Remember to like, comment, favorite, subscribe, do all that fun stuff down below. If you want to keep the discussion going about Pokemon Sword and Pokemon Shield, click that link in the description. First link on our social medias will take you to my Discord server. And we can talk about Sword and Shield all you want over there, because I got nothing better to do. I gotta go to math class after this, and then I'm just gonna sit here and look at images of this game over and over and over and over and over and over until I vomit. I really like Pokemon. Anyways, have a happy Pokemon day, and I'll see you guys next time.